It's time for this week's episode of Brandon Sports Talk, featuring in-depth interviews from those who are trending in the world of athletics. And now, here's the host of Brandon Sports Talk, Brandon Pate.
Welcome back to Brandon Sports Talk. In today's episode, I have the privilege to interview Sam Hossack, who owns Sam Hossack Media Hockey Podcast. How are you doing today?
I'm doing good. How are you, Brandon?
I'm doing good. Can you talk about how you knew that you wanted to start a hockey sports podcast?
Yeah, absolutely. I obviously have my media brand, Sam Hossack Media, and I started that in March of last year. I've been a hockey fan my entire life, so when I kind of came up with the idea of having a podcast, obviously I wanted to direct it towards hockey. So yeah, it's been fun over the last 6 months, but yeah, it's been something I've been thinking of doing for the last 3 or 4 years, honestly. And to have it really get started in January of this year really was an amazing thing for me to do.
What is your Sam Hossack Media, and what do you offer?
Yeah, so Sam Hossack Media is a media company that I started myself back in March of 2020. We do a bunch of graphics, video editing, just a bunch of sports coverage in general. Um, it covers a lot of teams, really. I'm posted graphics constantly of events happening around the world of MLB, NHL. That was a big thing this year, and a couple other leagues as well.
What do you cover on your podcast?
Yeah, so we have right now it's a mix between OHL players and Division One women's players. When I'll have a guest on, we'll talk about their career and how their time at their specific university has gone. So it's been amazing to be able to talk with all these athletes and learn so much about their careers and kind of showcase it on my brand.
How do you come up with some of the guests you've had on, and who are some of the guests you've had on?
Yeah, that's kind of a funny one, honestly, because when this all started back in January, my plan was to have a bunch of my buddies in the Ontario Hockey League on. I'm up in Ontario, Canada, so we have that league up here. So have all my buddies on from that, and this year due to COVID-19, their season got canceled. So when I'm reaching out to these guys in January and February, there was kind of talk that the season was supposed to start early February. So it lined up perfectly with me launching it at the end of January. And then all of a sudden the season kept getting pushed back and pushed back. So I had a few buddies on the first 7 or 8 episodes, and it was rolling along, and I was a month or two in, and it was going well. And then all of a sudden, with the season not going, I didn't have anyone to talk to. So I ended up shooting a shot technically and DMing Emily Rickwood of the University of New Hampshire. I knew she had a big following on TikTok. I kind of was like, hey, you want to come on my podcast? Love to talk about your career. And she agreed to. And about a month or two later after that, I was sitting in about episode 30 or 31 and had just been all Division One women's athletes. And it was definitely great to start to showcase them. And I'm kind of thankful at this point in OHL season didn't happen because I wouldn't be where I am with this. And probably with this amount of episodes without that really happening. But yeah, Division One athletes are great, and some of the guests I've had on have had some buddies on, Aiden Dudas and Marcus Phillips, who are LA Kings prospects, Toy Harron, who plays in the NWHL, and then just a whole bunch of athletes from around Division One. I've had about 10 or 11 girls from the University of New Hampshire. Yeah, so it's been great. There's too many guests at this point to count from, but yeah, we're heading into episode 61 and 62 today.
Of course, do you only interview right now college athletes, or have you also interviewed a lot of professional hockey players?
Yeah, it's mainly right now Division One athletes, especially in the summer. I do have some personal buddies that are professional athletes. I kind of stay away from just because I don't want to have to go ask them a bunch of stuff throughout the summer. I have had a couple of professional guys on, like Dudas and Phillips, like I mentioned there. But yeah, Division One's kind of a main thing right now, especially. Obviously, everyone's kind of preparing for their school year, and I'm not sure how many episodes I'll actually get to record this summer, just because everyone's going to be getting ready to go back to school and preparing for that. But yeah, I have had a couple of professional athletes on, and that was definitely great to have as guests.
Of course, what was it like for you to have, of course, the NWHL hockey players like Taylor Kersey, Hunter, and Kersey come on?
Yeah, that was unbelievable. I want to thank them both for coming on. I reached out to them, and they were so supportive of doing it and wanted to do it right away. And that definitely was a fun episode, coming up with some sister questions for them, and definitely with some laughs on that. So everyone can definitely check it out if you know who those two are out there. They have a blast, and I'm excited to see them play this year together finally.
Can you talk about, of course, your new project, the Sam Hossack Media sponsored athlete?
Yeah, so over the weekend, obviously, I kind of saw throughout following the NCAA, especially with all the athletes I have on, they have their new NIL, which allows athletes to be sponsored. And I kind of had the idea a while ago, obviously, knowing they can't do it, and it was thought about and it got shut down right away in my head. I was like, hey, they can't be sponsored. It's not, nothing's going to happen out of this. And then finally to see that happen, it's great for them. They deserve to be showcased as much as they can. I know every athlete that plays Division One hockey is sponsored by Barstool Sports, because why not? Because Barstool is a sick company. But I was like, you know what? I'll reach out and offer them to get merchandise that I'll be working on this summer for my company, graphics from myself throughout the year for the player, and then they'll come on my podcast during their year. And it's been so supportive. As I mentioned, I started on Friday, and I've already had 20 plus athletes already signed up, and I definitely want to add to that. So doing as much researching athletes and stuff, and reaching out to as many as I can for sure right now.
That's so amazing. What is the program about? Like, can you tell me a little bit more on what you offer and what you look forward to accomplishing with the program in the future?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, obviously, I'm just starting it out, but I want to showcase these players as much as I can, especially for the women's players. I know it's talked about a lot that they aren't showcased as much as the men's players, and that's definitely something I don't really agree with. I think it should be equal. There's no way a men's player should have more of a following than a women's player. I mean, there are some amazing um, women's players out there. The one that's a sponsored Sam Hossack Media athlete is Erin Frankel, and she's an unbelievable hockey player, and I can't say enough good things about her. And I mean, she got robbed, in my opinion, of the U.S. Olympic team, and that just shows the quality and talent of a player that she is. But yeah, I'm just hoping to really showcase these athletes and help them out, and yeah, it's gonna be a fun ride.
What is something that you learn now that you didn't know before starting a hockey podcast?
Honestly, that interviewing Division One athletes is actually so much fun. Like I didn't think that I'd ever see myself doing it really. Because at the start, to be honest with you, when I kind of started doing it, I was like, is this really going to get views? I live up in Canada and no one really follows the NCAA up here. We don't get these games. No one's going to know who these athletes are, especially with me talking to women's players. And there's no disrespect. And I mean, a bunch of them are Canadian and they know how it is. Their parents have to pay to watch their games. And um, so I didn't really expect it to take off as much as it really did, and it's been great so far. Like all the support I'm getting, I know a majority of it is probably from their friends and stuff down in the states or their friends up here in Canada, which is great. But um, yeah, I didn't expect it to get as big as it has for a few of the episodes, which is amazing, and it's been really fun to be able to actually talk to all these athletes and cover their sport.
Of course, when it comes to women hockey players, professional hockey players, is Taylor and Hunter Kersey the only ones you've interviewed, or have you interviewed any other people in the NWHL or PWHL?
Yeah, I've also talked to Toy Howard of the Connecticut Whale, and Michaela Langai and Megan Barris have been on my show before. Megan was drafted this year by the Toronto Six, and Michaela Langai was drafted by the Minnesota Whitecaps. So they've both been on. That was obviously previous to the draft, but they're they're amazing athletes, and I'm happy to have had on my show for sure.
Of course, what are some of your future plans with the podcast?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I want to continue talking into Division One athletes. Obviously, I have it lined up where I'll have a number of them on throughout the season. But I think the direction definitely is going to go the direction that I wanted to in the first place. Um, the Ontario Hockey League starts up in a few months, so it's definitely going to be grabbing as many of my buddies as I can from that league and starting to pump out those episodes. I'm definitely going to have um, it transitioned into two different kind of things. I'll have the episodes with the sponsored athletes coming out, and that'll kind of be a weekly thing. And then I'll also have the main podcast coming out weekly. I'm hoping to get that kind of rolling in the next couple weeks again with that. I've got a couple to do today, but definitely get all the OHL guys I've been hoping on for a year now to finally be able to come back on the show.
What advice would you give somebody looking to start their own hockey podcast?
Yeah, I definitely say that you got to reach out to people. Use your connections that you know. I have definitely done that with a few of my episodes for sure, and it's turned out amazing. Um, Kind of figure out what direction you want to go and just go for it, and don't be afraid to branch out. I did it, and it obviously turned out really well for me, and now I have this opportunity where I can sponsor these athletes because majority of them have been on my podcast and know who I am, and uh, are able to agree to it almost right away. So um, I'd say definitely reach out, and don't be afraid to send a DM or two. I mean, my DMs are basically filled with like sending these messages to these athletes to get them on my podcast and to become a sponsored athlete. Like, you're not going to really get anywhere if you don't ask these people. You might think, hey, they might not answer, because I've had a couple of them where I've sent DMs or I didn't think they were going to come on, and it turned out where it actually did happen. And next thing you know, a week or two later, I'm recording with this person. So um, definitely just reach out. Don't be afraid to send a DM to someone. That's obviously everyone's got a phone nowadays. So, I mean, everyone's going to see it at some point. It might be a day after, a week after, 10 minutes after, and you might be agreeing to have a podcast with them. So, yeah, definitely reach out to as many people as you can and find the direction you want to go for sure.
That's great advice. Where can my listeners find you at on social media along with your podcast at?
Yeah, so if you search up Sam Hossack Media on YouTube, our channel will come up. On Instagram _ Sam Hossack Media 2020, and Sam Hossack Media on Facebook and Twitter as well. We're pretty active on all four of those platforms. We've got podcasts coming out quite regularly. Definitely, it's been a wild summer so far with everything kind of opening up in Ontario here. So I am a little bit behind on some of them, but I mean, um, I'll get to putting a bunch of those out. But yeah, it's great to have all these episodes coming out and all the content I'm able to do. It's going to be a huge time for me in the next little while, doing a bunch of graphics just to showcase NHL draft stuff that's happening and expansion draft in the NHL. Um, that's going to be like a crazy week. You've got the expansion draft, and you've got the NHL draft, and then the free agency opens in like the next Wednesday. So all within a week, it's just a frenzy of a bunch of hockey stuff I'll be pumping out for sure. So it's it's fun, and it keeps me busy for sure outside my job.
That's wonderful. Thank you again, Sam Hossel, for your interview, and best of luck in your future with Sam Hossel Media.
Thanks, Brandon.
You can find Brandon Sports Talk on Facebook at Brandon Sports Talk, Instagram at Brandon Sports Talk, Twitter at Talk_Brandon, and you can find me on YouTube at Brandon Sports Talk. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Thank you again for your interview and best of luck in your future.
You've been watching Brandon Sports Talk. Please feel free to like, share, and subscribe to Brandon Sports Talk on social media and on YouTube.